Now, why is cash flow important? Well, cash flow is important simply because it identifies the movement, the direction of flow of money. Now, we're all going to use money in our lifetime. I find it really puzzling that most of us will spend about 50 years of our life working for money. And on a daily basis, we spend, if you include travel time to and from work, we spend on average about 10 hours traveling to work, doing our daily duties, and traveling home. Now, 10 hours out of 24 hours is a long time. But if you discount the time that you spend resting, approximately 8 hours, then what you have is 16 waking hours every day. Now, if you spend 10 hours out of 16 waking hours, then you're spending about 70% of your waking day working for money. But we haven't studied money. We haven't learned about the purpose, the nature, the use, how it's acquired, and how it should be managed. And the word cash flow is important because it gives you an indication about how much of a, what I would call, money manager you are, or how much of a poor manager you are. You see, we're all stewards in life. You know, we come into this life with nothing. Interestingly, we're all going to live, when the time comes, with nothing. And everything we acquire in between our birth and our death is for us to manage resourcefully and pass it on to the next generation. Now, to do that well, you need to understand cash flow. In every business, the first and the most important thing a financial accountant or an investor or potentially a takeover company will look at is cash flow. Now, cash flow is important because it dictates not only the strength of the business, but the longevity of the business. The cash flow is like oxygen in the blood. You need oxygen in the blood for the blood to continue to circulate. Cash flow is king. Now, we understand cash flow in business terms. The problem is we haven't really grasped its importance in our personal lives. Now, if you're going to be wealthy, you must begin with cash flow management. And this simply means that you must start to identify, number one, the pattern of cash flow in your personal life. Number two, the direction. And number three, in most cases, you must look for what we call the underlying story. Because everything in life is all about stories. If you sit down carefully and you analyze how you spend your time, what you find is that there's a story hidden in how you use your time. Now, the pattern for cash flow deals with what is the regularity? How often does money flow to you? Now, for most of us, we have what I call income because we have a job. In addition to that, because we have to survive, we have expenses. Your income determines the flow of money to you. Your expenses decide and confirm the flow of money away from me. In addition to expenses, we have what we call debts or liabilities. And finally, we have what we call assets. Now, with cash flow management, with income, money flows to you. With your expenses, money flows away from you. With your liabilities, money flows away from you. And with your income, money flows to you. Sorry, with your assets, money flows to you. Now, why does this even matter? You might be asking that question. Who cares? Well, let me explain why it's important. To understand the value of what I'm about to share with you, I want to ask you a question. The simple question I want to ask you is, are you living the life that you were born to live? Now, before you answer that question very quickly, let me pose a second question. Or let me qualify that first question. Are you living the life you were born to live? And this means life on your terms. Doing what you want to do, with whom you want to do with, when you want to do it. You see, we were all born to live the extraordinary life. As a matter of fact, we were born to have life and have it to the fullest, the abundance of life. We have the power of choice. So the question again is, are you living the life that you were born to live, which is the life extraordinary? You were born to have a great experience. Now, what I've found is that in many cases, most people are falling short of that lifestyle that they want, that experience. And one of the reasons for that is because of the demand and, in my opinion, the pressure, the necessity for money. You know, Alan Watts was the one who said, what if money was no object? You know, how would you choose? How would you wish? How would you want to spend the rest of your life? And he said something that I thought was very interesting. He said, whatever that might be, you need to start living that life, because it's possible that whilst it might not provide you with a source of income you need, you might get so good at doing it, you might get exceptionally skilled at doing it, you might develop a level of mastery that people pay you for it. So what you get is a life that you want and a compensation for that lifestyle. Most people are not living the life they were born to live because of money. Now, my question is, if we eliminated that need for money completely, if we said money was no object, you have all the money you want in the world, how would you spend your life? Now, what you find is, in my experience, whenever I've asked this question to a few people, in my experience, about 90% of the people that I ask this question to tell me that they will be doing something different to what they're doing now. Meaning that they're not living the life they were born to live. They're living a life that is a necessity because of money. Now, why don't we start working together, you and I, to make money no longer a necessity? Now, to do this, you must, first of all, start to understand the importance of education, the importance of financial education. Now, there are 4 types of education that are essential to enable us become the best that we can be. The first is academic. The second is professional. The third is personal development. And the fourth is financial. Now, academic we get at the young age. That's a given. We learn how to read and write. That's easy. We need it. It's essential. It's not mandatory, because you can still live a very, very successful life without going through academic education. But it's good to know how to read and write. Professional is where you go and you learn how to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. You want to learn how to be maybe a physiotherapist. That's professional. You're taking it a step further. What I've found from my experience is that these 2 are provided at the young age. We have enough of that. The problem we have is that we are not provided with personal development and financial education. Now, personal development, in my opinion, deals with what we call EI, emotional intelligence. Now, this is where we talk about attitude, how to set goals, how to sell, how to work with a team, how to develop your passion. These are what we call life skills. From my experience, believe it or not, most people get fired more from a job, not because of professional skills, but because they don't have personal skills. And so we go through life making mistakes. We're never taught about our emotions. We're never taught about the use of the imagination, the use of the higher faculties that help us achieve a fulfilled life. Most of all, we're not taught about money. And from the age of roughly about 5, we're going to use money. Until we die, we're going to use money. But very few are taught about money. Now, if you want to create that abundant life, one of the things you must do is begin to study money. And the best place to start to study money is yourself. To do that, you must go back to what we call cash flow. Now, I'm going to give you a really simple exercise. Very basic, very simple. For the next 30 days, I want you to simply sit back and study the flow of money to and from you. To do this, go on a challenge, a 30-day challenge. And during the 30-day period, I want you to simply make a note every day. Make a note of what you spend money on. Everything. If you buy your travel tickets, make notes of it. Just write down the amount and the purpose. You can abbreviate it if you want. If you buy perhaps a sandwich, make a note of it. Every day, keep this for 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, I want you to just sit down and just have a look. Just have a glance through that list. The intention here is not to make you anal. It's not to make you, really frugal with your money. No, the whole purpose of this is awareness. You see, the starting point of change is awareness. You cannot change your life without awareness. You can have understanding, you can have education, you can have information, but if you don't have awareness, you're lost. You're lost. You see, it's not just about being in the right place at the right time. I like to say that you have to be the right person, in the right place, at the right time, but more importantly, you must be aware of where you are. The 30-day challenge is simply to raise your level of awareness so you can understand the pattern that you have in terms of cash, because each and every one of us is programmed. That is a difficult word to use, and let me clarify that. Most of you watching, you drive. And if I were to take you back when you were learning how to drive, you would sit in the car and the instructor would tell you very carefully, put your foot on the clutch, slowly take down the handbrake, slowly put your foot on the accelerator, gently release the clutch, and as you do that, the car starts to pick up some traction and movement. It tells you to hold the steering very carefully, look to your left, to your right. It gives you a set of instructions. Some of them are very difficult at the start. With time, you start to remember a lot of the instructions. And eventually it gets to a point where you can drive, the music is playing, it's your favorite song, you're having perhaps a sandwich in one hand, you're talking to a friend on a Bluetooth, and you're maintaining control of the car. Now, how could you do all of these activities automatically and still drive safely? Although I don't encourage you doing all of that whilst driving, people do it. Now, how can you drive, even if you weren't doing all those activities, how can you drive and drive safely without thinking about all of those activities? Clutch, brake, handbrake, look to the side, rear view mirror. The reason is simply because all of that information has gone from your conscious mind, which is the thinking mind, and has gone down to your subconscious mind, which is your emotional mind, and now is operating automatically, instinctively. Now, in the same way, a lot of your habits are automatic. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. You don't think about it, you just do it. You get into the car, you start driving. You're not thinking about every single activity, you're just doing it. In the same way, in our personal lives, there are things we do, we don't think about it, but we do it. Now, if you sat down and you reviewed over a 30-day period what you do, I can guarantee that you'll be shocked about how you spend money. There are items and things that you spend money on that have become instinctive. They are habits. Now, you can qualify those habits and ask yourself, Are they good, wealthy habits? Or are they poor, wealthy habits? Because the difference between the wealthy and the poor, or the wealthy and the average, lies in one word: habits. Habits. If you control, change your habits, you change your life. It's really that simple. Now, one of the reasons you want to monitor the 30-day experience is because you want to see how your money is moving. You want to see the movement of money. Coming back to the word cash flow, what you'll find is, if you look at your bank account statement, you have income. You also have expenses or debts or liabilities. This causes money to flow in. These cause money to flow in the reverse direction out. So money flows away from you if you have expenses, assets. If you have expenses, liabilities, and debts. Money flows to you if you have an income. But in addition to that, money flows to you if you have assets. Now, if you want to be wealthy, the key is increase the movement of money to you and reduce the movement of money away from you. And you do that simply by, not by earning more, because income normally for most people will come from a job. A job is what we call unleveraged. What that means is that you have to work to earn. And there are 24 hours in a day. 8 hours you need for sleep, 16 hours are left. You need some time for your personal activities. So you're left with probably between 8 and 10 hours every day to work. That is limited. It's also labor intensive. The more you work, the more you stress yourself, especially if it's physical labor. So one of the things you must understand is income has to increase. However, it doesn't have to be income from your hard work. It doesn't have to be income as a result of you exchanging your time. You can start to use a different form of income, and this comes by having assets, investments, that cause money to flow towards you as income. So the key to creating wealth and understanding cash flow is to just look at your financial life and ask yourself the question: how much am I getting coming to me, and how much am I pushing away from me? Very quickly start to make changes. You begin, if you have a job and you have no assets and no investments, that's okay. You're in a great place. And let me tell you why, as I summarize. You're in a great place simply because you can, from your income, you take a portion of your income. Now this could be 10%. You invest that portion of your income on an asset. That asset starts to create a little bit of income, and that flows towards you. Now, we'll imagine that that's you there. This is the difference. This is income from a job, and it has unleveraged. This is income from an asset, and it has leverage. The key then to wealth is continue this process until the income being generated from your assets and investments starts to exceed the total income, which is the 90% that you have here. Once you get to that point, what you do very quickly is you discontinue this. You channel all of that time and attention, energy, focus to creating more assets. So now you're now putting in more time. Now remember this, when you stop working, you're not going to be getting the 90%. At this point, what you have is you're investing 10%. This income is only producing enough to cover this 90% that you were gaining, or rather the 100% you were gaining before. Once you let go of your job, you're not going to get this extra, meaning that this asset will most likely have to cover all of your expenses, but you would have time. So what you have is time freedom. With that time freedom, you can move very quickly to what we call creating multiple sources of income. So you can invest your time to create more assets that produce more income that flow towards you. Now, if you had this arrangement, what you would have is a cash flow pattern whereby you have more income coming to you from investments than you have expenses going away from you. I hope that's been useful. God bless.